Welcome aboard today. Wow, we got a powerhouse of a guest. We're talking a little bit about RWAs. This is Joinn Finance. We have Bryan on today from Joinn. This is something new that's jumping on the Root network. And as you guys have seen with the video series that we've done, we've been talking with everybody that's building on the network. And I think this one is going to be quite a surprise and kind of cool once it launches. So Bryan, thanks so much for coming on through here. When we talk about Joinn Finance, when we talk about the Root network, when we talk about the future of finance coming on chain, you want to be at the front of that.
That's right. That's right. Thanks for having me, Schiller. I appreciate this space, and I'm really excited to share a little bit about what we're doing with the community. But yeah, at the end of the day, real world assets have always been around. Their stocks, their gold, their mutual funds, their treasury bills, things that have been around in traditional finance for quite some time. And I guess the unique part of it is now that they're being brought on chain, so that it's much easier to buy and sell them and have access to them from all parts of the globe and from all sort of walks of life. And so that's one of the things that we're really focused on, is bringing this access to as many people as possible through the Joinn app. So thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. And when we talk about bringing these different products and services onto the blockchain, how does it work behind the scenes? Because you have to take the initiative of, okay, we're going to go out and develop a system on chain, where I think some of our thoughts of seeing certain partners that come into the space, and now we're having banks coming on board and all the stuff that feels like it's a little, the announcements are coming out from different entities across the entire world of we're going on chain, but you need to have somebody that's also building on those blockchain rails if it's not from some of those service providers as is. So for yourself, how do you get involved with this in the first place, and where did all of this Joinn Finance start?
Well, so my background is traditional finance. I worked many years ago at Morgan Stanley, right out of university, and I was a futures trader, and I was really involved in sort of the technology piece of how trading was happening. And this was again back in the many years ago in the late '90s, early 2000s. So fast forward to today, I've done quite a bit of work in the digital asset space, in the crypto space. I was a managing director at Binance for a few years, from 2019 to 2022. And during that time, we actually did launch a stock token offering. So they had a little bit different name back then. We called them STOs or STOs. And so that's really where my love for this came. During my time at Binance, we had this motto of freedom of money, and I always thought that was really cool. We're trying to help people with sort of this financial part of life, right? And I think what Joinn is doing is taking that a step further and not relying only on Bitcoin and other types of digital assets or cryptos, but really using the blockchain technology to dive into the traditional investment world, right? So, like I said, stocks, golds, treasury bills, real estate, some of the things that have always been there over the last hundreds and thousands of years for humans to invest in. Now those things are all coming on chain, and so what that's doing is it's democratizing the access. But like you said, it needs to be built on these chains, and these chains need to be interoperable, and they need to be able to talk to one another, and it has to actually work for people. And so what our thesis is that DeFi today is too complex to bring in, the mass markets. You have to have a PhD in MetaMask. You have to know how these pop-ups work. You have to have a lot of trust. If there's a bridge involved, good luck to you, And so what we're trying to do is just really make the most simple to use way to interact with these blockchains across different chains. And as you mentioned, the Root network is one of those. One of our first tokens that we have is on Polygon, which is a treasury bill from BlackRock. So it's a pretty exciting time where the world of crypto and digital assets and blockchains is coming together with the world of traditional finance, and it's creating an opportunity for a lot of people, not only for investors but for those building in the space.
I think a lot of people that are going to be watching this are people who are focused on the Root network side of things. So can you tell any kind of a backstory about how Joinn decided that they were going to come to Root network? Because for myself, you look and there's so many blockchains and so many different opportunities, and it's, you always hope, okay, hopefully the good apps and the people that are doing the right thing end up going on the network that you're kind of following and whatnot. And seems like that's the case. So what's the kind of origin story between Joinn Finance and Root network?
Well, so our mission has always been since day one to be interoperable, and one of the things that implies is that there's some sort of liquidity or aggregation layer where even though you can bring things from other chains, it sort of all has to settle at one place, or all has to come through sort of one network. And so as we were building this out, we sort of tried to be as um, not focused on a specific chain as possible. But then what actually wound up happening is we met. Aaron McDonald and the Futureverse and the team that's sort of behind the Root Network, and they have a venture capital arm that we came to a deal with them where we would bring our technology over to the Root Network, and they would help with a small investment for us. So that's really the origin story of it. And then from there, we sort of grew in our our love for the Root Network and in our ability to see that as sort of the end network where we could settle things. But yeah, at the end of the day, it was a VC investment from them, sort of having the confidence in our project to invest in us and to get us going on the right foot. So it's one of those things where we're contractually in it to do it on the Root Network, but we actually really like the network, the people, the community. It's been amazing so far. People like yourselves and others that are out there doing their thing. So yeah, it's been a really pleasant surprise for us. And like you said, there's a million networks out there, so we talk to a lot. But at the end of the day, we're pretty happy with where we are, and it's been a great ride so far.
So this is more of like a personal question, but when you look at the crypto landscape right now, it feels like everything is just massively positive. And I talked with Jeff from Futureverse the other day, and we kind of got a little bit into how countries are now getting into, I'm not using the right term, but like digital legislation, or saying collectively, we're going to start doing things by this means by 2026, 2027. And it feels, before crypto wasn't something that you really wanted to touch, or at least the people that were bold like ourselves are out there doing it. But it feels going into 2025 here and beyond is that crypto is going to be the focus of things, where you're bringing the traditional world on chain, and we can go down the list of every single sector coming on doing something on chain. So just curious, from your perspective, what's your general thoughts on the crypto sector and just the overall sentiment heading into 2025 and beyond?
Well, I think this is something that I've been looking at really closely since I got into the space in 2017. And, I remember we used to talk about it in orders of magnitude, right? And kind of look at the internet, how it had grown in, orders of magnitude over the years. And, you have one person, then 10 people, then 100, then 1,000, and so on and so forth, right? And, I kind of extrapolate from that concept to think about the way that I look at crypto and digital assets as a whole. And I think what I'm seeing is that we've finally sort of broken that plateau of it's only people that are sort of you know early adopters, I would say. Right now it's starting to make enough noise across financial institutions, across nation states, like you mentioned, to where there's enough noise out there that I think we've sort of turned the corner on sort of that initial phase. And I'm looking for another order of magnitude sort of growth spurt here with simple to use tools. I think one of the things that we've gotten bogged down with is the complexities of the chains and of the ways that the technology works. And I don't really think people care about that. I don't really care about a Microsoft Exchange server when I'm going to send an email. I just want to make sure that the email goes through and gets there. And I think it's exactly the same with digital assets and crypto and blockchains. I think people can't, like the mass markets can't really be bothered with the actual tech and what rail it's on and what, gas fee and all the things that are out there. I think they want companies like Joinn and other companies that are really trying to simplify the UX and bring it into a world that they're very comfortable with, right? So an app that functions just like any other app, like an Uber or like a bank app, but that has access to this technology on the back end. And so I really see this year, maybe not necessarily only 2025, but 2025, 26 and beyond, as sort of a turning point where we're going from a niche market of, a small percentage of the world and a really even smaller percentage of the world that uses it actively, right? Like when you look at the numbers in crypto, they're taking everyone that's ever bought it in their lives, but that's not the people that use it daily or weekly or monthly, right? That's actually just the whole number of people that have bought it. So I think we're going to look at, billions of people using these technologies in their daily lives in the next 3 to 5 years. And to go from where we are today to that is really going to take quite a lot of effort, energy, developers, companies, investment. Like it's going to take the whole gamut. It's going to take a whole village of people. And I don't think we even have enough people in the space today to meet these demands. And so I think it's extremely bullish for all of us that are, sort of early adopters and been building for a while. I think it's very positive, and I'm pretty excited about the future.
Very eloquently put. And I think also like the future being multi-chain and the tech being hidden is something that we've continually talked about for a while. But I don't know, when you look at the space as a whole, if that's really been achieved the right way. I think that there's still barriers to certain components. But again, as you mentioned a little bit earlier, when you get into the space and you have to, be a MetaMask expert and learn all the different wallets, security practices and different chains and how everything operates. And it's, the tech isn't really hidden, but it's slowly kind of progressing within that direction. But for yourself with Joinn, blockchain. Now you guys are at the point of you have Polygon, you have Root Network. What's kind of, I guess, like the longer term goal for where you guys want to see yourself?
Well, we would like to have an app that's really easy to use for a lot of people. And so, what does that mean? That means that we have to appeal to the types of assets that people are going to want to see. So, typically in crypto, there's been a couple different types of investors, and I think it's been led by speculative investors. If we're honest with each other, I mean, we want to see price go up, and everyone's like, okay, I put 1,000 in. When do I get 2,000? When do I get 10,000? Right? And I think that that's not really how we look at traditional investing, right? Like when you buy a Tesla stock or an Amazon stock, you don't think, all right, 10x me, or you're a piece of junk. No, that's not the way we think about it, right? And I think some of that mentality needs to come back into the blockchain space, right? This conservative mentality of protecting your wealth, not gambling everything you have on hitting it big, and making sure that the meme that you invested in goes to 10x and then you sell it at the right exact time. We're looking for things that people don't need to really risk as much on to have an upside, right? And so what that implies though is that it's actually a less upside than a lot of these speculative investors are looking for. So we're not able to 10x with a treasury bond. It's 4% a year or 5% a year, whatever that bond pays, right? And so I think there's a little bit of a sort of a psychological difference between the investor in crypto, from here going backwards, and what I think is going to be the investor in digital asset spaces, both real world assets, NFTs, cryptos, all these things combined. I think we're going to see a different sort of use case for this, and it's going to be much more of a savings account on steroids, if you will, than it will be an exponential way to grow health. And so I see this as a much more responsible way to use this technology, because at the end of the day, if you have people that don't have very much money and they do know the risk, but they're still betting all they have and losing it, that's a bad thing for a lot of people, right? And it's happening every day in the crypto industry, and with memes and with influencers shilling things. And it's just the way that it works in the industry right now. And I think we're seeing this shift to more of a grown-up block, to where we have responsible people doing responsible things. And yeah, maybe they put part of it into a 15% growth thing, but they keep part of it in a conservative thing so that they can maintain their wealth. And so to me, it's almost like a psychological shift of those coming into the space. We're seeing a lot more mature investors, I think, and we will continue to see that over the short term here.
Well, one of my favorite things within the Web3 world is that I think it brings out a passion in people. Where I was able to interview somebody the other day that was starting or has been in culinary for 20 years, and now they're building out some products within the space that is also connected to some Web3 communities. And for myself, when I got into Web3, I came in through NBA Top Shot, if you're familiar with that platform at all. And I had a friend that was just really into collecting cards and introduced me to that. And, I didn't care about quote unquote investing or really anything of that landscape. And now over the past, 4 to 5 years, that's all I've cared about, learning all this stuff. And it's opened up a complete different passion and world for me that I didn't realize was there. And I think that's going to do the same for others. So curious your takes. How much do you think that the Web3 kind of opening doors, for lack of a better term, because it does feel like Web3 opens doors. Do you think that that is going to be a notion that continues, or do you think that this is just going to be only for the people that are kind of early to what's going on within the blockchain space?
No, I think Web3 is going to open a lot of doors. And I think as soon as the door doesn't seem like a door, as soon as Web3 is just like this thing that works and people can use, I think that's when we're going to see, the mass adoption coming over. And, that's one of the things that we're trying to extrapolate out of it, is the complexity of the multi-chain environment out there, right? And so I think people that aren't used to using blockchains aren't used to using gas. I think they're not used to signing transactions. We log into things in the world, but we don't sign transactions. And that's a daunting thing. It's like, okay, well, what if I sign it wrong and all my money's gone? Like people have, are worried about certain things like this, right? And so to me, I think the growth of this industry is going to continue to, sort of in the early stages, be pushed by Web3 enthusiasts and people that are very curious about this technology. But I think as we're getting closer and closer to extracting away the complexities of the login process, of the signing the transaction process, of the gas process, those three in particular, I think we're going to see just an influx of people that don't even really can't be bothered, whether it's Web 2, Web 3, Web 5, Web 10. They're just going to see something that they need to do or want to do, and they're going to do it with that technology, right? And so I think that's what we're going to see is going away from crypto and blockchains and digital assets as a thing, and it's just going to be like a database in the back, or there's going to be some element of it that isn't even really seen by the people that are using it. That's my take on it. That's where I see it going.
That's awesome. That's awesome. But Bryan, as we're getting kind of close to wrapping up here, I want to just highlight the fact that you guys are coming on the Root Network. What can people do now to pay attention to what you guys are doing? Because I go on your X page and I'm just like, all right, every single day there's a new announcement of you guys partnering with some big other player within the space. So how can people get involved now, and how do they stay up to date?
Well, that's a great question. We have you can follow us on Twitter, so that's always a good place to find out where we're signing partnerships with all these amazing companies. Um, there is a Telegram community that also can be joined. We have a Telegram mini app that should be launched any day now, where people can do quests and win rewards and points and things of that nature. So these are some of the ways. And then we also have a private sale round on our pre-sale of our token. So if people are interested in that, they can DM us through one of those channels and ask us more of the information. But yeah, there's a few different ways people can get involved. We're also taking on volunteers and people that want to help spread the word and get involved in the community. So yeah, we're trying to be as open as possible, and our lines are always open. So yeah, Twitter, you can find us at Joinn Finance, and Join is with two N's, as you can see in the shirt. So Joinn Finance on Twitter. And yeah, that's probably the best way to get hold of us. Or you can go through the Schiller here, and he knows how to find me. So no worries.